Hey, Tony. Yes, sure.
Okay. The 23rd? No, it was the one before. It was the first week of August. Oh, you're right. No, you're right. That one. Yes, that was the special meeting. You're right. Thank you. But I can second the motion, right? No?
No.
No. Okay.
You should not.
I should not. Okay. I forgot about that meeting. Thank you, Julie. Good for you.
Look at Jim talking about that. Where I see Gene. Greg and Pasquale, you're going to be doing the presentation. Do you also want to talk on privilege of the floor, or is that for the presentation?
Oh, we can do the presentation, yeah.
Okay. We won't sign you up for privilege of the floor then. You'll just do your presentation. Thought you wanted to lobby your board on something.
Usually they take that.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. about
No, we're casual here. We just.
that. Sorry.
You're looking for 63.
So on the 20th, we're doing, a little bit, after Okay, good. I'll have to send you a thank you. I have 7. That's a little, that is not quite there yet. I have 7 there. We'll let the room get put.
So if I can't second 15,
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the September 6th meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. For tonight's invocation, I just ask that you take a moment of silence to offer your own intentions. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Here.
Councilman Ramsar?
Here.
Councilman Turco?
Here.
Councilman Barone?
Here.
Supervisor Kesley?
Here. Again, welcome to the September 6th meeting. Back to fall, right? Feels like fall out there, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe not. We do have a busy meeting tonight. We have a few, fun things on here. One of them being a presentation on the new town hall from our third and final proposal. And then, as you all know, we'll engage in some discussion on that next week and perhaps the following week. There are no changes at all to the agenda, so we'll get right into town council reports, and I'll start on my left with Councilman Kirkland.
No report.
Councilwoman Barone.
I also have nothing to report today.
Well, I have something to report. Councilwoman Barone is newly married this past weekend. We just want to congratulate her. And thankfully, she did not change her name on us again. Councilman Martin,
Nothing to say but congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Ramatar.
Yes, I'm sure you're going to mention this also, Mr. Supervisor, but we're getting ready for Oktoberfest again, September 30th. Everyone can sign up, or any volunteers can sign up on the Oktoberfest website. And we're getting ready to start our fall cleanup soon, including, which includes leaf pickup and cleaning up the parks, winterizing water hydrants by the water department. And obviously, just want to thank all the staff for all their hard work.
It's hard to believe we're thinking about winter and fall.
Oktoberfest on a 90-degree day.
I know. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 5. That's a public hearing regarding a proposed local law amending Chapter 270 to add and update certain definitions and provide for the provisions governing short-term residential rentals to the town code. Before I open the hearing, we'll just try to explain that because that's a mouthful of what's going on there. This is a public hearing that we will obviously solicit comments for anyone interested to discuss amendments to the zoning law governing short-term rentals within the town of Glenville and establishing certain occupancy levels for the length of stays at hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts, and other temporary stay facilities. Further, this also clarifies some definitions such as cannabis and tobacco retail consumption businesses. It defines what a fast food restaurant is, which was needed in our code. It amends the definition of retail to change the word vapor to smoke. It amends the definition of personal services and of general services. As I mentioned, it establishes a definition for short-term residential rental units and adopting related zoning regulations that allow for only these rentals to be in rural residential and agricultural districts only. In layman's terms, meaning that Airbnbs will not be allowed in suburban residential neighborhoods. Going forward, would only be allowed in rural residential and agricultural districts. And finally, it amends, I think most importantly, zoning regulations for hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, tourist homes, and boarding houses. And this would establish an occupancy limit such as the stay would not be could not be greater than 28 consecutive days, nor more than 60 days in any 180-day period. The restriction would not apply to someone issued a government photo ID that shows that they have a permanent place of residency other than the place of the temporary stay. That's what this does, and this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Anyone wish to be heard on that matter? Anyone at all? Going once, going twice, seeing none, that public hearing is now closed. We'll now move on to the presentation, and I would like to invite, first of all, Pasquale Marchese, sorry, from Labella, and Greg Barkstrom from Chase. Greg has driven out here from Rochester tonight, so, and driving back, right?
I don't know, I may go down to Red Hook to my brother's
Oh, well, you could stay in one of our hotels for a night.
house. And I'm down to 59 days.
It's a long ride.
ride.
It's a long ride back, and we appreciate you driving
I
out.
appreciate the opportunity.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to you, but I'm going to get your presentation on our screen. So if you want to introduce yourself to the board, I'll just take 1 minute to do that.
Yep. So Pasquale Marchese, I'm with Labella Associates. I'm the senior project manager and regional architect.
I'm Greg Barkstrom with Chase Development, Director of Real Estate Development Operation.
Do we need to turn some of the lights off? Is that?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we have to fix this presentation. Thank you, Sid.
Oh, yeah, right there. All right, Mr. Rose, congratulations again.
Thank you.
So I hate to ask you this, but in order for people to hear you at home, you have to speak into that microphone.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So first, you want to start go through the presentation and the have the team. Just a quick
Just,
introduction. yeah?
just quick introduction to the team. Jim McKenna's Vice President at La Chase. Myself, again, Director of Real Estate. Dave Hollander is a Vice President in the Albany region. We do have 7 offices throughout New York State, as well as 2 in North Carolina. And then on the Labella side, we've got Pasquale, and then Raymond, who is the Center of Excellence for town halls, security, and jails, correct?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So just here, quick introduction. What do we do here at Labella and La Chase? We are a partnership that goes more than we are. Labella is in business 45 years. I think for 40 we have been partnering with La Chase in multiple projects. So we work in infrastructure, building, waste and recycling, and environmental and energy. So those are like where we cover pretty much any market around us. Whatever you guys do, probably we have our hands on. So this is just a quick introduction before we move to the full presentation. All right. So existing site and building. So I think here everybody knows about it. So on the top, the picture, let's say if my pointer works. Oh, it works. So at the top picture, we have the existing building, and the lower picture is the existing site. Here is the building, and this side here is a second parcel that is owned by the town. So the town official, they did some preliminary feasibility study. Obviously, this building has 3 departments, and they overlap to each other. The building itself has some code issue that obviously we're not going to review today because we didn't do our feasibility study. So we're going by whatever was provided through the RFP. So this is the main items would be our new building in an existing site. That's where we thought was the best use of the town property. So what we did, so this was a piece of extract that was in the RFP. This provide a really high level of program for the 3 departments that are currently in this building. We have the police department, we have the court, and we have the town hall. So this is a kind of, like I said, it's a kind of wish list. But while we were doing our design, here there is no mention for corridor, how we go from one room from another. So, we had to massage a little bit this, but this is a good, really good high level program, helped us to put it together, concept design. So from this, we moved to, okay, this is our, let's call building and site option number 1. So on the second, in this option number 1, we leave the building where it is, and then we will follow with the additional feasibility study. We do additional town study and see what the building would need to be to renovate, bring up to code, and then what's the need of the town that can occupy the building. We can use the building for. On the right side, on the second parcel, is our layout for, let's call the new town facility building. And just for the top part, because it's the part that would be used mostly by customer and town applicant, is the townhouse office. In the middle, we have the courthouse with same share service with the town hall and with the police. And on the back, we have the police department, high security, and Sally Port secure court on the back. So again, this is really high level concept design. To develop a design like this, you will need probably another 6 months. We will need to sit down with the town official. We will need to sit down with the court official and New York State Court, because it has some rigid requirement. When we talk about New York State Court, and not less, we have to sit down with the police department to make sure that all the requirements are met. And we have also expertise in our office and in the Chase office. We have expertise that goes for more than 30 years, that have worked in multiple essential facility. Those facilities are called essential facility because they have to operate in case of emergency. So this is, like I said, this is an overall of the option one. The option two will not change the building, but will change same option we can do for this building here, the location of this building. So if we go a little bit more, this gives you a little bit more information about where the court, the town office are on the front with all the parking around, so people are easy to access. And then we have the court independent entrance. So, you know, when the town office are closed, people that if they have to go to the town clerk or if they have to go to the court clerk, they don't cross to each other. And then at the end, like we talk about it in the rear part, the back part, we will have the police department where we identify the Sally Court, the high security, closed fence yard, where when the police then comes with the defender in the back, they close the door, nobody can escape, and then they open. There is a set criteria how which door opens first, which door opens later, so to make sure that nobody, like I said, escapes. Any questions? So while we wait for the end of the question, yeah. Okay. So this is a little bit, again, high level concept. This is where we envision in the town a nice, still traditional, but with the same new modern flair, with some glass movement with the roof. This is another view you can see on the right. This is the secure Sally Port for the police department. This is the entrance of the town office now. So this is the option two of the side. So you see the building is still the same. Here is the Sally Port. This is the front of the building. This is the back. Here it's where the current building is. So if we end up to, okay, we don't have anything to do with this building. We don't want to have, we want to provide something to the people of town of Glenville. What can be something we can provide? Well, how are we going through? You see this green part here is the new town park, town of Glenville Park. And this is, will be, obviously, this part here is the park. Right now, we're showing the same footprint of the building, but obviously it can change. The building is in the back right here. This is the existing building of the neighbor. This is other view of the park. And now Greg will go through a little bit some additional real estate.
Yes, so, thank you. On the development side, we're open to different options, different ways of looking at this. We can be your builder, and you guys finance it, own it, move on. We can also do an open book type deal, whereby we program this thing with you, we bid it with you, we pick the contractors, and we move on. So everything's open book. We do it on a cost plus fee basis. We can also look at one where we provide basically the equity into the deal, and we get a return on that from you folks, and then basically you pick up the mortgage payments, but we do it through a lease scenario, so that, again, it's all open book, which I think is different than most developers would do with you. And then lastly, we would, look at a straight lease, one where perhaps after 10 years, there's an obligation for the town to purchase it back, or 20 years, or whatever it may be. And we would basically take our equity dollars back out, plus the mortgage balance, and that would be your purchase price of the facility. So we're open to pretty much any way to look at this that helps the town and helps us.
Do you have a rough cost estimate on what it would cost to build that building?
We had a 13.2 number for the core and shell. Yes. Yes. And that was based on 28,500.
28,500.
Yes. Plus the rear parking. Yeah. area.
Is the park concept you show, is that something you would purchase, or is that a donated space? How would that work?
Well, the park is right now going to be shown on the presentation of it currently will be located in the place of this thing. So, and the park, then we have to decide, it will be some kind of donation from, or it will be, we did it both so far. This is something that, you know, it's still early.
Still early. We need to do a feasibility study, but if the town would like, the park, obviously we can roll that into the project. You already own the land.
Right.
So that would be the largest cost.
And that's behind our decision to, because in the RFP, there was like, different directions, you can provide site, and the different stuff where they are. I think that town of Glenville, it wants to kind of keep their, identity, I think everybody knows where it is, the town center. So I think that these facilities that is like 3 different departments plus, it can be a different usage for this building or a kind of park in the same location. I think identify and enhance the identity of the town of Glenville. So everyone is behind the thought of keeping everything in an existing site. And other than that, the town already owns the space, so there is no extra expense.
So in that 13.2 number that you presented, is the green space development of that park included in that number, or?
It is not, but again, I think that we're so high level at this point that at the end of the day, we could probably get it.
Okay.
Depending on our, design.
Again, we want to present that it's for a share, the 13, 100 is for a share, but I'm a request by
By the other.
So the only, I shouldn't say the only, the two that jump out at me, the issues are, if we do this park concept, we lose the equity of what's here. There's no equity from here put into the project, and there's no opportunity for us to get that equity out. So there's one issue, and that's, it's appraised at over 600,000, so theoretically, you get 600,000 for it. That's something we'd have to ponder. If you can go back to one of the overviews of the entire site, one of the major, I think, issues.
One here?
No, a little bit further back.
The original site plan?
Yeah, like you showed the bird's eye view.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah,
The access,
I know where.
you're going with the access engine.
Access.
Yes, we
To the
talked,
east.
yes.
That won't fly, I don't think, with DOT, and I don't think with us. We can't even get out of here sometimes. You put us on the apex of the hill, we're gonna be in trouble. So we would definitely still need the access at town hall.
Right. So obviously, again, when it comes to preservation, this is really high level design. So before we even think about to open up an access or additional access, we will do a traffic study. We have our civil engineer and see what is the traffic study, and we will figure out the best option. I don't know if the best option is to keep the entrance or security fees, or maybe we want to move it. So those, and then we will provide those options later, but we need to do some additional stuff.
Well, I think the other issue that's part and parcel of that is that site is substantially sloped, from what I understand.
Privately, it's rough.
To achieve that design, it's going to require a ton of grading and probably retaining walls and things of that nature to make that happen.
Is that been considered?
In general cost, yes, but we don't know how much we need to have, right?
Right, as a general yes, as a specific no.
I think, yeah, we don't need it, we need like a 10-foot, retaining wall against the street, retaining wall. And we can, again, this is a little bit high level, we can have a site and one part is higher, the building can be one higher, one low. Not be like this without an elevator, but we will make sure it's accessible. But yeah, we can have, because the simple, see, here's the thing, because all the three departments have a different, level of security. So more we go to the depth, and less kind of exposed wall will be. So maybe the part of the police maybe will be like higher, or depending on how everything works. If they provide security, we don't have to provide, high level of windows, doors, stuff like that, because they will be underground. But those things here, right now, we're not designing, this is only concept.
To give you an idea of the topography, the little house next to us there to the east is called, they named their house Hilltop. So that's the top of the hill. Everything else is like this. So that would be a challenge, I think, but.
The one advantage it does have is obviously you can maintain full operations here.
Correct.
And that can be under construction.
Yeah, those things here, they, we kind of balance the two.
And theoretically, when you need a lot of storage, you can build into the grade for lower level storage.
And you did say from taking this from concept to plan would be about 6 months?
Yes. If not more, obviously, we will need the commitment of all three departments, what we usually do, once the client is ready to move forward, we will provide each department, we will provide a schedule, and this schedule then also called open focus group. And we will meet with all stakeholders for each department, and make sure that everybody has their say how the department operates. Because this is now La Bella, which is doing, this is now Glenville, so we want to make sure we understand how the police department, your police department operates, how the town force operates, and how the council operates. So we will need multiple meetings before we can develop a final approved plan. So we will go through a number of meetings where ideas are thrown at us when we go back into the whole conversation on paper. We review it, make sure that everybody, all the three departments have to sign off. So one idea that we can right now, again, we went through the list they was provided, and we tried to meet all of the requirements. But there are some space that maybe we can have to be like a shared space, instead of share a common space between the departments. So we can maybe grab some other staff and save them money from that, doing that. Again, we still have to keep in mind that all the three departments have three different levels of security. So we have to make sure we keep those level first. And then we can, maybe a bathroom, would be, again, bathroom for all the visitors can be common space. But for us, the rest, obviously, we don't want to just town office and buy the house, sell it for
I hate to ask you, but just speak in the microphone when you respond. Sorry. People at home can't hear it. Believe it or not.
Sorry.
they can't hear it.
I apologize.
That's okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love the idea of putting a park here, in theory. When you think about the practicality of having a park with all the traffic, the noise, the hustle and bustle around here, I just worry that it's not gonna be a well-used park because it's just gonna be too busy in this area. It's like, it doesn't scream serenity around here with the commercial corridor being here. And to your point, Chris, about it being taken off the tax rolls and we lose the ability to kind of, use this space as a way to kind of offset, our budget and taxes. I worry about that. I do see this building could be a lot of potential for a commercial space. That's the small business owner in me, of course, saying that, but I think it's a missed opportunity to take it off the tax rolls entirely. So that's my 2 cents.
I mean, the town will always have an option of just subdividing and selling.
Mhm.
To get the equity out that way.
Mhm.
And perhaps address what your concern was, rather than using the footprint of the building for the park, we push it to the rear.
And kind of isolate it a little bit more from the street. That, yeah.
The town hall, the library,
Sure.
definitely need
I definitely love the idea of it. It's just, I wouldn't want my kids like right along Glen Ridge Road playing on a playground, you know, like, yeah.
The thing is, Amanda, I think what this does for me anyhow is it makes you reconsider what can this be. Doesn't necessarily need to be a park either.
Sure.
It could be a community building, you know, in phase two, you know, and it could be something that actually enhances the commercial uses here in the town center by drawing people to this location.
You guys want to,
Wintertime activities, you know, holiday party, all that kind of thing could happen in that space and actually draw people into town center and be an attraction and a destination and not just a flat grass park.
you guys want to
A lot
come,
of other things it could be.
you want to come back to your desk? Because again, people can hear that. But you don't have to say it
Yeah,
again.
yell that too.
Yeah, you don't have to repeat any of it, but good thoughts, Jim, on reimagining what can be in that space. Any other questions or comments?
The other thing I would say is, if this were to come, we got to at least ask the county, because that's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
We've asked the county repeatedly.
You're going to have two brand new spaces there, and you're going to have this old 1960s, whatever it is, building in the middle of the 80s. Looks like 60s. Feels like 60s. You know,
We've asked them many times, and we just can't, they're not interested.
I'd like to see maybe some numbers when you said a 10-year lease option to buy and a 20-year lease option. Those numbers.
Basically, a rough number is 13.5 or whatever, 13.2.
I guess high level.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on what you see.
Your leasing rates are probably not much more attractive than what the town can get, right? Your financing rates, I mean, if we were to finance it through you.
No, it's more of a your dollars or our dollars.
Right.
Someone else's dollars is better.
Right. True. Anything else? Anything else?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You have a safe travel back.
Thank
Time frame on this, just for everybody, is that we anticipate having a pretty in-depth discussion next week, maybe into the following board meeting, but really have a decision by the end of September, I think, on at least what direction we want to go in and start going in that direction. All right, we'll get back to you guys shortly.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So Greg, next time he comes from Rochester, bring some of that Jenny beer and.
Jenny beer and white hot dogs. Yeah, and white hots.
White hots. Thank you. So we'll give the folks just a moment to, thank you, get their stuff together, and then we'll get back on the agenda. The next item, once we get back on the agenda, will be privilege of the floor, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the agenda from there. We do have a few folks, well, now one person signed up for privilege of the floor. If anyone wishes to speak at privilege of the floor and did not sign up, just raise your hand. We'll invite you to the podium. You can address the board at that time. You do not have to sign up previously in order to address the board, but it just helps us if you do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening. The first person, or the only person signed up is Jim Shear, who would like to speak on the migrant crisis.
I'm Jim Shear from Glenville. Regarding the current fiasco with the migrant crisis in our area, especially with Rotterdam and the proposal to bus people to the Stratton Air Base. Last Wednesday, my wife and I drove down to Brooklyn to attend the RFK Jr. Town Hall, and he spoke about this. He actually went to the border in Yuma, Arizona, and there were busloads of migrants being unloaded for $10K each. The cartel was in charge of the buses. These people were paying $10,000 each to get to the border. Okay. They guaranteed that we'd get them to the border and they would get through. So he interviewed a couple hundred immigrants coming off these buses, And, I thought the same thing. I thought, oh, these people are all from Venezuela and South America. No, they're not. Most of them were Africans, Asians, especially Pakistanis. Only 2 families that he interviewed of those hundreds of migrants qualified as asylum seekers. But the Border Patrol has been ordered to treat them all like asylum seekers. They're doing a very 10,000 feet cursory review and then just processing them onto buses and busing them out. The morale in the Border Patrol is rock bottom. I think 7 people have killed themselves recently in the last few months. They're acting as travel agents for the cartels. There's no other way. I looked it up this morning or this afternoon, and I found a couple articles saying the same thing, that they're ordered to welcome these people, and Kennedy would close the borders until this thing is solved. But the problem is what's happened in Rotterdam, and this whole discussion that was in the Gazette between Hochul and Adams and Homeland Security. They weren't talking to you. They weren't talking to any local officials. The town supervisor in Niskayuna found out through a Bloomberg article. And how's that going to work? Putting undocumented, unvetted migrants, we know nothing about them, in a secure Air Force base surrounded by a fence with barbed wire, and the local schools would have to absorb any children at their own expense. So there's strict rules for asylum seekers in the federal rules and regulations. At the southern border, they're being ignored. They're just come in. I guess it's happening on the northern border to a lesser extent. So I think, there's also a current backlog of asylum seeker cases of over 800,000 cases. That's a 4 to 7 year backlog. So we're letting these people in. We're busing them to God knows where. We're funding their food, their medical expenses, their school for their children, and they're not going to be adjudicated for a long, long time. And something's got to give. And I had a discussion with you a couple of weeks ago. Home rule in New York gives the localities considerable clout in enforcing their zoning laws. And I think that's the only way out of this and I think there's resolutions to follow, that you have to have some defense against this because we're helpless. They're just thrusting these people on us, and they're just, I feel for them because they're pawns in this game, but that doesn't mean they don't have to follow the rules like everybody else. And I followed the first Zoom thing in Rotterdam, and there was a lot of Turkish and Armenian and Italian grandmothers that were complaining, like, we came over, our ancestors came over, we had to work our way up like everybody else, and they did. And these people are just getting a carte blanche almost. It's not their fault. It's the rules that the Biden administration is imposing on us. But so I would support, and our group would support, trying to clamp down on zoning laws to prevent this from happening in Glenville. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else wish to speak and further to the floor? Going once, going twice, seeing none further to the floor. Now, we'll move to supervisors' comments to the board. few updates. I'll try to go fairly quickly. There's a lot going on in the town, believe it or not. And I just want to update you on a few things. First of all, our grants, Climate Smart grant, the grant we received to build the sidewalks in Scotia Glenville School District, Niskayuna, over in Applause, and then Burn Hills. As you know, everything is completed other than the Applause sidewalk project right now, but we expect to mobilize now that we've signed the agreement. We expect to mobilize in September and hopefully have that built by mid-November, and that will be the final piece of that tri-school district grant, and we'll be done with that and have that all complete, so we're excited about that in 2023. The Van Buren sidewalks, under yet another grant, design and bid is expected to start over the winter, and we expect to start that project in the spring of 2024, we hope. So the sidewalks are being built. They're moving their way through either 2023 or the 2024 cycle. Freeman's Bridge Road Complete Streets, that's another one. The draft design approval document and environmental screenings are going on now, so that should be a 2024 project. Probably most excited for me anyway, the Scotia Glenville bike hike trail, which we've been talking about forever, is on that the river, Mohawk River, between Shawnee and Freeman's Bridge Road. That is ready to go. I think they were going to start this year as far as design and prep, and then in 2024, completion in 2024, but we'll be doing prep work this year, so that's going as well. We're working, I just got done communicating with DEC on the Kenco site. That is also progressing as well because they kind of started and then they stopped, but they went out to bid for contract work to be done there, and they expect to be active again by May of 2024 on that site to start to remediate the site at Kenco. There's a lot of remediation that's going to be required there. They're going to cook out the chemicals and the toxins there, and so that is continuing as well. The microenterprise loan is starting to take off when we open it up to Scotia, so we have a lot of Scotia businesses applying for it, as I mentioned last time. We just update you on parks. A lot going on in parks. Legacy Park, first and foremost. We've been very busy there. Gravel walkway is finished, so now all we have to do is have our folks build out the boardwalk that will go over the wetlands. Half the lumber required for that has been delivered. It's on its way. The garage is ready to accept it as far as being able to store it. And so once that's built and installed, the walkway will be complete. I think Bob went out and looked at the ramp that they're building off the building so it can be handicap accessible into the veterans' offices and what they're planning to do at the house. So the ramp is being built as a donation from Habitat for Humanity, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Yep.
They were
And-
completing it today.
Yeah, so it looks great. A lot is going on out there. A lot has been done in all the parks. I reported on that last week, but I do want to just update disc golf is being built in Indian Meadows. We're excited for that. I never played disc golf, but I've played golf, so maybe I can play disc golf too. I don't know. Jim will tell you I can't play golf, so we'll see. But Vicky has put together a volunteer workday for September 9th. So if you're interested in building disc golf pads, tees, what do we call this? Tees. You can join in that. I know we have a lot of volunteer opportunities in September with Oktoberfest, as Sid mentioned, but we also have building disc golf courses. We like to get that done. If we can get that done at all, that would be great. If you haven't been in the parks lately, take a ride around. A lot is getting done. I do want to report on Thursdays in the park. We had a very successful year this year. Good attendance on the nice nights. We did have 2 rainouts. I think, as you all know, we had Bob there scooping ice cream. We had Amanda announcing, so it was a great season. I think he kicked off the season, right? The first one. You all know that Dave Hansen, I mentioned this to you before, he lost his wife Julie to ovarian cancer earlier, say later in the spring. He wasn't available. He was the gentleman that always gave his time and scooped the ice cream for free from Stewart's, and he wasn't available. So we took that on, as you know, and asked for donations from residents as they got their ice cream, if they could throw $1 or $2 in the basket. And with two of our performances being rained out, so we only had three, I was shocked and pleased that we raised $600 from residents on ovarian cancer research and prevention. So we'll be donating, the town will be donating that money in Julie Hansen's name to that foundation. And it was the generosity of our folks that did that. So that made it a very successful year, I think, this past year. For your calendars, we will be doing the 9/11 ceremony again at Max 410s. So that will be 5 o'clock on 9/11. The ceremony will be the same as each year, so if you can make it, that would be great. I do just want to mention that it is budget time. Jason and I met today and reviewed all the budget submissions. We had an opportunity to meet with department heads through end of August. The submissions came in on the 31st. We're sifting through them now. I'm not going to get into it tonight because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of challenges facing the town and all towns. And I just want to note that the budget forum will be September 13th in this room. We have a second one. I think it's September 22nd at the Senior Center the next following week. But if residents can get there, if you can get residents there, I think it will be important. We have a lot of challenges this year. I know we say this every year, but every year the challenges get deeper and deeper. And there's a lot that we have to go through. There's a lot of requests. We ask for the requests. My philosophy has always been we're kind of like, the old making sausage theory, just throw everything on the table. Let's figure out what goes in. But there's a lot, and not all of it's going to make it, obviously, but there's going to be a lot of discussion about how we get to where we need to be in 2024. So the budget forum on the 13th would be great if folks can attend that. I want to comment a moment on the migrant situation here in the town of Glenville. We know, much like the Niskuna supervisor, I was enjoying a wonderful movie at the Scotia Cinema Wednesday night, and Oppenheimer. It's a great movie if you didn't have a chance to see it. It's a wonderful movie. 3 hours long, but gave me a lot of time to respond to the many text messages I got with Bloomberg articles attached to it about how Glenville has been identified as a site for migrants to be sent to. I had no prior knowledge of that or any indication from anybody that was going to be the case. In the ensuing days now, since about a week now, we have tried to contact our elected officials. Nobody's returned a call yet. Nobody has commented on it yet. I've been told by the media that nobody has returned a comment on the state or federal level. The only person talking about this is the people on the local level, because we're the ones that are being affected by this now. We've had a complete and total failure from the federal, state, and county level, and it's been dumped on towns, villages, cities, and small communities across the state. And that's not right. So we're continuing the fight. Now, some of our residents have got it mixed up. They think that we have asked for this. We have not asked for this. I want to be clear on that. We can't handle this. That's the problem. Our school districts can't handle it. The towns can't handle it. We don't have the resources to handle it. I did spend a good part of Monday, maybe it was Tuesday, because Monday was a holiday, Tuesday, calling the 109th because a rumor broke out, if you didn't hear it, that 4,000 migrants were on their way to the 109th. That was the rumor going around town, and our phone was blowing up on that. So I spoke to 5 people at the 109th. Now, one of them would talk to me, weren't authorized to talk to me, and they kept passing me on to the next person. And I finally told I said, I feel like I'm calling Verizon. I keep getting passed around. I mean, we need someone to talk to. So to their credit, they did have Major General Shields, who is in command of the entire National Guard in the state of New York, return my call. And he's assured me, and I told him I was going to report on this publicly, he's assured me that there's no plans that he knows of any migrants coming to the 109th. He has told me that he obviously will do as he's directed, but that there is no talk, there's no planning, there's no, in their view, no way that they can handle migrants on the base. I told him that I was concerned because it was Homeland Security and the Biden administration that has offered federal property. And so if it's offered, does that mean that Mayor Adams can just send them at his whim. And he said, not exactly. He explained to me that although the National Guard, once federalized, is under control of the president, the National Guard otherwise is under the control daily operations of the state of New York. Every state is in control of the National Guard. So the governor runs day-to-day operations. He has assured me, and Rory Fluman has made public comments that he's been assured by the governor's office that she does not endorse this plan, she does not think it's a good plan, and that she will not execute that plan. So this seems to be a false start from Homeland Security and the president, the Biden administration. But what we're being told and assured is that there's no plan, that the governor does not endorse the plan, and that that is not going to happen. Regarding the zoning on that, what we can do or can't do, we'll do what we can. Home rule has been under attack by the state of New York incessantly since Governor Cuomo, and unfortunately, Governor Hochul learned a lot under him because she's continued it. They continue to attack home rule. It's a state constitutional right to local governments, but there is a clause in there, and I'm not the constitutional attorney here or even the attorney, but there is something that does give them a little wiggle room that if they decide that there is a pressing public need, that they can ignore home rule. That's a concern. And that's what they get around all the time when they want to try to attack home rule. They tried to take home rule away in the last budget with changing the fact of affordable housing. They wanted to make sure that we weren't allowed to do anything in zoning to prevent that multifamily can go anywhere regardless of zoning. So we have to stay vigilant against those attacks on home rule. But what we're doing here tonight is a perfect example of being proactive. We are looking to make sure that they do not turn hotels into long-term multifamily rentals. These hotels were not meant for that purpose. I would argue, and I'm not the planner in the room, Tony, but I would argue that that's a violation of site plan. That you can't just put people there with an undetermined amount of time and to stay there without any regard for the fact that hotels are supposed to be for travelers, not a destination for an undetermined amount of time. So we're doing all we can, Jim, on that as far as our zoning is concerned. We're taking the proactive steps to protect the community, and you'll see there's a call for a moratorium on any new hotels being built in the town, and that's part of the step to say we need to take a step back and figure out how we're being impacted by this crisis before we go forward with any more hotel applications in the town. So those are two things that we can do right now, and I think we'll go a long way in protecting the community. And other than that, we'll continue to stay vigilant and do everything we can to make sure our community is safe. We talked about this too from the migrant point of view. How great is it to be put in a prison-like situation? I mean, there's no compassion here. There's no compassion for anyone, not for the migrant, not for the community. The migrant seeking asylum can't connect to a job when he's behind, or he or she are behind a fence. You can't send your kids to school when you're locked behind a fence. How do you get on and off a secure base every day to get a school bus? I am the supervisor of this town. I'm an American citizen. And when I step on that base, I have to give them my social security number. They have to do a background check, and I have to give them my license. And I have to be there for a specific purpose. And I have to go to exactly where they tell me to go to. How does that work when you put people on a base otherwise? So ill thought out. I don't know who came up with it. I don't know who said it. I don't know who did the press release on it, but hopefully they lost their job. But it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. So we'll stay vigilant on it, though. Thank you. So back to the agenda, and we'll take up item number 9, resolution adopting proposed local law 4, amending chapter 270 to add and update certain definitions and provide provisions for governing short-term residential rentals to the town code of the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this would enact the aforementioned changes. I'm not going to get into the details. I think you did that during the public hearing a few moments ago and just now. But it does enact the series of changes that were previously discussed.
Any other questions or comments on that? Again, I just want to say, I think this is a proactive step by the town board. I think it's important. We're one of the few communities, and I'm proud to say one of the few communities, and I think Jim has been there a long time, Sid as well. We've been proactive and on the forefront of these things, taking the steps that are needed to take to try to first study a problem and figure out the solutions. This is what will help us do that, and I think it's a very good step for the community today. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Barton?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Barone?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 10, scheduling a public hearing on September 20th, right here at Town Hall, to hear any person interested in the proposed local law to impose temporary suspension on any review, approval, or issuance of permits relating to hotels or motels to the code of the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is, as you said in your comments, this would impose a moratorium on any hotel motel development until we have a chance to further look at and discuss potential changes to this section of the zoning law relating to this transient stay.
And I believe this extends to September 2024.
September 2024 with ability to renew it after that. And during the moratorium, the town is going to also take a look at the comprehensive plan and other provisions of the zoning ordinance in order to assure that hotels and motels are situated in the best possible spots in the town.
That's a good point you bring up, Jeff. Our town comprehensive plan hasn't contemplated this issue. So
Right.
it's another great reason for a moratorium so that we can revisit that and figure that out. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here. I'd like to say, Chris, first of all, thanks to you. You're taking, and you usually do this. You're taking a proactive stance here, and you're trying to get out ahead of an issue to the extent that we can as a municipality, and as a local government, who's again the receiver of these things again. And I just want to take an opportunity to call out our federal officials. Where are they? If there's a camera around, I have no problem finding Congressman Tonko. But an important, real meaty issue like this, and where is this man? Where is he? He doesn't even respond to the call from our chief elected official, not even a staffer. Where's Senator Gillibrand? Where's Senator Schumer? I just don't understand. And you know me, I'm a great believer in accuracy in language. And I find the use of asylum seekers totally inaccurate in describing the situation. And I see now it's in the media now that all they refer to the situation now as asylum seekers. These people are crossing 3 and 4 countries before they come to the United States. Why can't they take asylum in Mexico? If that's the true reason for they're fleeing their country. This is totally, crazy. We have laws in this country. We often refer to ourselves as a country of laws. And now we just simply don't enforce a certain set of laws relating to immigration. We just choose not to do that. We choose not to do the hard work of legislation to change those laws if there are deficiencies in them. I just don't understand. And it's now coming home to roost at the local level. This is no longer something in Arizona or Texas. This is right here in our backyard. And I just, again, where's our federal elected officials? I just don't understand.
A resident did say to me the only saving grace here is that maybe the state of New York will finally understand that this is not just a problem in the border states. It's a problem for the entire country. And I'm a little jaded on that. I'm not sure our folks, our elected officials on the state and federal level here will wake up and understand that or appreciate that. But I do want to clarify that the staffers, I can get a hold of a staffer. That they do return the calls. I refuse to speak to a staffer. I've already gotten the staffers on the Rotterdam thing. and then I get the same comment. Oh, the so-and-so, this elected official will take it under consideration. I want to hear from Senator Breslin. I want to hear from Congressman Tonko directly. What is their plan? I want to know what their feeling is on this and what they're going to do to correct it. But I want to hear from them, not from their staffers. So I'm waiting for a call from the actual elected official.
And the other fine point I would point out here, I was talking to a county official yesterday, and they raised a good point. That is not a federal installation. That air base is not federally owned land. That is county-owned land that the federal government happens to occupy.
But they control it. I know.
Just saying.
It's cutting, but it's a federal base. But
No.
it's under control of the governor. Day-to-day operations under control of the governor. Not Biden. He would have to federalize the Guard in order to have control of the Guard.
I just don't understand why we just can't work by the immigration laws that are on the books. And if they're deficient in some manner, undertake the hard legislation and work to do that and change the law accordingly. But until that time, enforce the laws that are on the books.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Redpath?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Barone?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 11, subject to a permissive referendum authorizing the exchange of land located on Ellsworth Avenue, transition to Birchnell Drive for the land located on Boston Road, is also known as the tax map number you see listed there. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a
Do
motion.
I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. And just to start the conversation on this one, the town has been in talks with the owner of the property. It is bordering the legacy park that we have. It's the last piece of property that we kind of own all around, except for this little piece of unbuildable property. And so we've been negotiating. We happen to own a little paper street next to this person's house on Ellsworth, and they would like to propose a transfer of property so that we would get our little parcel over at the Legacy Park, and they would get this little paper street that's no longer usable to the town because now there's a private property that it borders. We can't ever put a road through there anyway. So this would allow us to go ahead and make that swap, obviously subject to the permissive referendum. Have any questions or comments on that?
I'll just comment, Mr. Supervisor. I think that this is a extremely sensible swap that is going to take place that enhances the continuation of Legacy Park. So adding to that property is just a common sense move.
Should be a win-win.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Redpath?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Barone?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, approving the independently audited financial statements this year ending December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. As you know, we get our audited financial statements. I want to thank the comptroller and his staff for all their hard work there. We always come out with flying colors. And no red flags this year, right, Jason? Not this year. We got through. I do just want to point out a few, facts about the 2022 financial statements. As I reported a few months back, we ended 2022 with surpluses in the town general, town outside, and sewer funds, and operating deficits in highway and water funds. These deficits were anticipated, as you'll see in the independent audit, and covered through the planned budget use of fund balance, which we did during budgeting time. The audited financial also show that last year we transferred over $1.7 million from our fund balance and reserve accounts into our capital projects fund to meet the town's match requirements for a variety of state and federal grants that we've received. So it looks like a lot of money, $1.7 million, has been transferred into these capital projects out of the fund balance and reserve accounts. But that's what the reserve accounts and the fund balance are for, was able for us to meet our requirements on these grants. The funding fully covers the town's share of projects, which include the Freeman's Bridge Road multi-use path and sidewalk, the Van Buren Road multi-use path, the remaining safe routes to schools, sidewalks, and all-plaza, the Melwick Park boat launch, and the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. All those projects I've reported on and have been reporting on are moving through. So Those are just, I wanted to highlight those because those might jump out at you, why $1.7 million in transfers, but it's all for all the many capital projects we've been doing and to fulfill our grant obligations for what was given to us from the state. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jerome?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 13, accepting a bid for the installation of a unit, an air conditioning unit at Glenville Senior Center. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, as you mentioned, this is a bid, lowest bid for a new HVAC system for the senior center for $68,500 to John W. Danforth and Company. The current unit's 20 years old and basically has come to his end of his life for the Commissioner of Public Works. We believe him.
And this is budgeted in our
Yes.
capital reserves. And with the weather the way it is, we need to get it in quick. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jerome?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 14, approving the minutes for the town board meeting held on August 16th, 2023. Do you have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? See, this is next resolution 15, approving the minutes for the special board meeting held on August 23rd, 2023. Do you have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jerome?
Abstain due to absence?
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Last item is new business. I'll start on my left. Councilman Kirkland.
I have none.
Councilwoman Barone.
No new business.
Councilman Martin.
Nothing new.
Councilman Ramichardt.
Nothing new.
I have nothing new, so with that, I'll take a motion.
I will move that.
A second,
Second.
moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.